Hello and welcome to part one of the project management training, where we will learn how to distinguish projects from other types of human endeavors, as well as how to choose the right project management approach for your project. 24 centuries ago, Plato, as ancient Greek philosopher, have stated that the beginning of wisdom is in the definition of terms. This statement is true because clearly defined terms are needed to prevent misunderstandings and to enable sound logical reasoning. While being a project manager myself and by supervising work of other project managers, I have observed that project managers' clear understanding of meaning of terms project and management has major influence on their thinking, behavior, and results. So what is project? A project is a human endeavor. By endeavor, I mean a purposeful undertaking aimed at achieving a challenging goal. Not every human endeavor is a project. Some are operations, others are games and adventures. So if we want to know which endeavors should be managed as projects, we need to agree on operational definition of the term, a definition that highlights the essential properties common to all projects. If we ask Google to define the term project, we will find many suggestions, but the most widely used definition comes from Project Management Institute, or PMI. PMI defines a project as a temporary endeavor undertaken to create a unique product, service, or result. I like this definition because it is simple, memorable, and highlights three important properties of a project. First, projects are temporary. They are time-bound, have predetermined beginning and an end. They are constrained not only by time but also by scope, budget, and provided resources. Second, projects are endeavors. They are not trivial, purposeful undertakings. A project is not just a routine work. And finally, projects are unique. They create something that is not exactly the same as what we have done before. Because of that uniqueness, the recipe for success is never fully known in advance. So the definition can be expressed in just 6 words. Project is a unique temporary endeavor. However, I believe that one important distinctive property of true projects is missing in this definition. The definition doesn't allow to distinguish a project from an adventure. The difference between projects and adventures is in the degree of control. Adventures accept uncertainty as part of experience. The journey and the discovery are often as important as the outcome. A project, on the other hand, must be managed in a controlled way. That doesn't mean the future should be predetermined. It cannot. The world is probabilistic, not deterministic. But being in control means that we manage uncertainty. We identify risks, mitigate risks that can be mitigated, and prepare ourselves to respond effectively when residual risk materializes. I learned this lesson many years ago while managing project management department of a national telecom company. Our department was responsible for delivering unique voice and data communication solutions for large corporate customers and government institutions across the country. All our project managers were smart and capable, but they were not equally successful. When I compared the behaviors of the more successful project managers with those of the less successful ones, I noticed a clear pattern. The difference in results was strongly correlated with their attitude toward controlling project environment using risk management. Successful project managers didn't assume that everything will go according to initial plan. They actively looked for uncertainty, they identified risks early, they mitigated what they could, and when something unexpected happened, they were not surprised and unprepared. They were ready to respond effectively. So for me, a project is not just a unique temporary endeavor. A project is a unique temporary endeavor undertaken in a controlled environment. And the real purpose of project management is not to eliminate uncertainty, but to create enough control to succeed despite uncertainty. And project manager job is to bring order to chaos. Here's a simple model that helps us distinguish between 4 major categories of human endeavors: operations, games, adventures, and projects. The model is based on 2 dimensions. The first dimension is whether the endeavor is routine or unique, and the second dimension is whether it takes place in a controlled or uncontrolled environment. Let us look at each category. First, operations. Operations are routine endeavors in a controlled environment. They deliver repeatable products and services through established processes, roles, and organizational capabilities. Second are games. Games are routine endeavors in an uncontrolled environment. The rules are known, but the outcome depends on other actors, competitors, opponents, customers, or market forces. In games, plans are less useful compared to operations, but what matters is strategy and tactics. A good strategy increases the probability of winning. Adventures, on the other hand, are unique endeavors in an uncontrolled environment. Here, both journey and the outcome are uncertain. Plans have a limited, if whatsoever, value. What matters more is resilience and adaptability, and the ability to learn and adjust as the situation unfolds. And finally, projects are unique endeavors in a controlled environment. They are not routine because they create something new, but they're also not adventures because uncertainty must be actively managed. To succeed with projects, we need creativity and proactivity. We need to imagine a solution and create a high-level risk-informed plan that helps us align people, coordinate resources, manage risks, and control execution. But the plan should not be a rigid script. It should provide direction while allowing autonomous and adaptive execution. In projects, project management wisdom say, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So plans are important. But important point is this. We must know what to plan, when to plan it, and what not to overplan. Because all projects are unique, over time many project management approaches have emerged. These approaches can be positioned along a spectrum. At one end are approaches that rely heavily on detailed knowledge-based planning and disciplined execution. Those approaches are often labeled as predictive or waterfall. At the other end are approaches that rely on continuous light feedback-based planning and opportunistic execution. Those approaches are often labeled as adaptive or agile. Because all projects are unique, there is no single best approach to manage all types of projects. The question I will try to answer in the following slides is how to choose an optimal management approach based on what is known and what is unknown at the start of the project. To choose the right project management method, we need to understand the trade-off between predictive and adaptive approaches. Predictive methods work best when uncertainty is low and cost of mistake is high. In this context, upfront planning helps us organize work safely, effectively, and efficiently. But when uncertainty is high, for example, when requirements are unclear, technology is new, or environment is changing, detailed upfront plans become less reliable. And if the cost of correcting mistakes is low, adaptive methods are often more effective because they allow team to use feedback to learn, adjust, and improve. In practice, however, we often should not rely exclusively on predictive or adaptive approaches, but we should use a hybrid project management approach. A hybrid approach combines predictive and adaptive methods. This can be done by dividing project delivery into phases of work streams and then managing each part using different method. For example, in a project to improve a business process, we could use an adaptive approach to develop software that automates the process. And we could use a predictive waterfall approach to train all process participants to use the software. So the real question is not what project management approach is the best. The real question is which part of the project requires prediction and control, and which part requires learning and adaptation. To choose optimal project management method, we can ask and answer three simple questions. First, can we know enough to be able to develop a reliable plan? And if the answer is yes, then we should go with predictive project management approach. But if the answer is no, then we ask the second question. Can we learn and adapt safe, fast, and cheap? And if the answer is yes, then we go with adaptive approach. But if the answer is no, then perhaps we have to ask the last question. Can we divide project into phases to be managed using both adaptive and predictive project management methods? And in this case, we go with the hybrid approach. To choose optimal management method for a project, it's useful to know what is the type of the project. This can be done by answering two questions. Do we know what the project shall deliver? In other words, do we know required project scope? And do we know what technology shall be used to deliver the required project scope? If both project scope and technology required to deliver the scope are known, we are dealing with a construction type project. This type of projects are best managed using predictive waterfall methods, such as critical chain project management method. If the project scope is unknown, but the required technology is known, we are dealing with a design type project. Software development projects usually have such properties. This type of projects are best managed using adaptive agile methods such as Scrum. When the project scope is known but the required technology is uncertain, we are dealing with engineering type project. A suitable approach for this type of projects is set-based concurrent engineering. Instead of committing early to one solution and then iterating until it works, the team explores several feasible technical options in parallel. As knowledge increases, weaker options are progressively eliminated and the final technology choice is made. If both the project scope and technology to be used to deliver the scope are known, we are dealing with a research type project. In research type projects, the main goal is learning. That means that we shall design experiments that will allow us to test and disprove hypotheses as safely, quickly, and cheaply as possible. One well-known framework for this type of work is PDSA, Plan, Do, Study, Act. The idea is to formulate a hypothesis, test it through a controlled experiment, study the result, and then decide what to do next. In research type projects, failure is to be expected and planned for. All types of projects require planning and control. However, what we shall plan is different for each project type. In construction type projects, we shall plan activities and deliverables. In design type projects, we shall plan time-boxed incremental delivery of value and delayed scope commitments. And in engineering type projects, we shall plan to evaluate multiple feasible technology options and converge into single one. In research type projects, we shall plan to learn fast through conducting multiple safe, fast, and cheap experiments. In real life, projects often do not fit neatly into one single category. A project may consist of several phases, work streams, or sub-projects, each with a different type of uncertainty and therefore requiring a different management approach. For example, building a house may include an architectural design phase, can include engineering phase, and construction phase. Each phase has a different type of uncertainty and therefore needs a different management approach. To summarize, there are four distinct types of projects, depending on what is known or unknown about project scope and technology to be used to deliver the scope. Different types of projects require different project management approaches and plans. And the same project over time, moving from one phase to the next, can evolve from one type to another and require project manager to change management approach. Which project management approach is most popular? For a number of years, Project Management Institute is conducting annual global survey on project management. The results of this survey show growing adoption of hybrid project management within organizations worldwide, and the trend is expected to continue. This trend is attributed to growing complexity of projects, as well as growing project management maturity within organizations, allowing them to combine predictive and adaptive project management methods when managing complex projects. In this short presentation, we have explored two key questions: what is project and what is not, and how to choose optimal management method for your project. Now take a moment to pause the presentation and reflect on what you have just learned. Think of at least one insight, idea, or practical tip that you found valuable and would like to apply. Write it down. Research shows that capturing your thoughts in writing significantly increases the likelihood that you will remember them, put them into practice, and benefit from them in the future. A small reflection today can lead to better project management tomorrow. Good luck with your projects.